Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I am talking today about 6 reasons why you are stuck and not healing. Even if you've been doing therapy for a while, you've been doing a lot of inner work, but you still feel like you cannot move forward, here are some reasons why that may be the case. Number 1, fear of social exclusion in some way or another. So, for example, you may fear if you are successful, if you do go for that relationship, if you do aim higher, you are going to face some sort of humiliation, criticism, rejection, abandonment, and you don't believe on an unconscious level that you would survive those things. How to resolve this? So this requires a lot of deep inner work because a lot of us have these fears, and what you need to do is identify the initial memories that are coming up that are associated with those specific fears. Some people are more sensitive to one form of social exclusion than another. You need to identify which form hurts the most and where it comes from. You can do this in therapy. You can also do this via journaling. You can actually purchase below some very powerful journaling prompts that can help you identify this. So social exclusion is something that actually we're all biologically designed to fear. So there's nothing wrong with you. It is very normal. But if it is holding you back from actually living your best life, thriving, enjoying your dreams, all of these amazing things, it is important to heal the deep wound. There's another book that I would recommend that I thought was fascinating. It's called The 5 Core Wounds. I cannot remember the name of the author, but in this book, she mentions the core wound of rejection, which is the deepest wound and can happen in the womb. So before you're even born, you can get this wound. It also talks about the wound abandonment, humiliation, injustice, and betrayal. So all of us can have a combination of these wounds, but are typically more prevalent in one than the other. So get to read this book and reflect on what it is specifically that you fear about social exclusion and work through it. The next part, and actually I'm going to put this under the same point because it is similar, it's related, it's around social again. However, it's more focused on being attacked, so more on the persecution. So this can be sort of being penalized, there being unfair consequences or unprovoked consequences for your endeavors. So let's say you want to embark on a business, but you're not doing it. And then after a lot of reflection, the underlying reason is because you're afraid that if you start this business, someone is going to attack you, someone is going to wrongfully accuse you of something, and you're going to be caught up in that mess. It sounds like an irrational fear, and a lot of the time it is. A lot of the time none of that will happen, but it feels very real. And as we know, we are not wired for thriving necessarily. Doesn't mean that it's not possible, but our brain prioritizes keeping us safe. So if there is somewhere in our psyche this fear, you're not going to be able to shine and create a business of your dreams and scale it and put yourself out there in love and all of that. It's going to be very difficult because it is scary to think, God, what if someone wrongfully accuses me of something? So you have to figure out, when did this happen? Who did this in my life? Who made me feel attacked out of nowhere? Where is this coming from? Getting to the bottom, knowing where things come from, is a really good step forward from overcoming these fears. And the other element is really around feeling the feelings and processing them. If there was nothing really prevalent that took place in your childhood around these things, around the social exclusion or the social attack, then really get deep into journaling. I literally journaled for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, for days and days, for weeks and weeks, to realize this about myself as well as doing a lot of different therapies. So I would advise you to do the same. The second thing that could be keeping you stuck is the fear of coping alone. And this kind of props up and keeps in place the previous fears that I mentioned, because if you were afraid of being rejected, humiliated, or persecuted, but you had the confidence in your abilities to cope with those things, and you felt very supported in your life, they would lose their weight. But if you don't have those beliefs in your coping abilities and you don't feel supported, you will crumble at the first two things, which is understandable. To be honest, anybody would crumble. The strongest, most secure person in the world is likely to crumble if they are being horrifically attacked out of nowhere and are being humiliated. These are things that we're not designed to enjoy. So what you need to do is start rewiring your brain around coping alone. You need to be able to cope alone. You also do need a solid support system, but sometimes that's harder to do. And you may be in a predicament where you don't have one at the end of the day, and it does take time to build. So what you can do right now is start acknowledging how you're already coping alone and start strengthening your skill set around coping. Number 3, the fatal flaw. We are all, not all of us, some of us really suffer with this completely irrational distortion around, if someone knew me, if someone saw me for who I really am, and they then rejected me, it would confirm my belief that there is something fundamentally wrong with me. So this can eat away at all sorts of things. It can stop us from being in love. It can stop us from dating, making friends, putting ourselves out there in business. It can erode our confidence and our self-esteem. And it is not even true. Every single person that has ever lived and that will ever live was created by God, who decided that we are more than enough, that we are exceptional and worthy of everything good in this life. There is nothing wrong with any of us. We are all fatally perfection in our imperfections. So this fear of, being exposed as not being good enough is a distortion. It's not to shame anyone. A lot of us have these distortions. So the way to overcome this is to really contemplate on your divinity. This goes beyond your identity today. It goes beyond who you are, who your friends are, your job, all of that. It's like your soul is precious. Your soul is worth more than money could buy. You are so important. And if someone rejects you, it is because you are incompatible. It is never because there's something wrong with you. Whoever told you that was wrong. They were wrong. I'm here to correct them. So again, it's around rewiring your beliefs around your value and understanding that it is simply just it is factually incorrect that there is anything wrong with you and you're good enough just the way you are. So contemplating on that. Number 4, this is a really profound one. This is a really, really profound one, which a lot of us aren't aware we are doing, but we often are. We will sabotage our lives, even as adults, when we're no longer close with our family of origin. We will still be on a cycle of self-sabotage, playing small, etc., in hope that in doing so, we are preserving our the ties to our family of origin. This is often because in our family of origin, we were not celebrated. We were not, encouraged to shine brighter than the rest of the family. And we were not really recognized when things were good. So we therefore learnt early on that actually being small keeps me in connection to my family. And when we were small, we needed that. But now we're adults. We don't need that. So it's very important that we break this pattern. It is essential because playing it small is one thing, but unfortunately, a lot of us actually got rewarded for things going wrong. I know I certainly did. Whenever I would do well, I wouldn't receive anything from my family at all. And when things were bad, that's when they would care. That's when they would show that they did love me. So as an adult, what did I learn? Doing well in life means disconnection. Things going horribly wrong equals love, equals support, equals involvement that I simply don't get when I'm shining. So we can be in patterns of getting into abusive relationships, being the victim all the time, because in being the victim, we preserve the love from our family of origin. This is very unhealthy. It's very, very unhealthy and sad that this is the case for some of us. So it's really important to work with a therapist and be very, very aware of the reasons why you self-sabotage. So for example, if you are going to the gym, you're loving it, and then after 6 weeks or so, you find yourself no longer going just when you're about to make progress. You may be thinking that this is because you're incapable and what's wrong with you, and start sort of taking a lot of the blame. But I want you to make note of every single time you've started a project and found yourself sabotaging it, and really deeply reflect and journal on all the possible reasons that this could be. My journal prompts are going to be life-changing for you because they are what really helped me see this specific pattern in myself. And I really think that when you see this pattern, you can really, really make astronomical changes in your life. So the next thing is unhealed trauma. So you actually may have post-traumatic stress disorder. This means that unfortunately, no matter what you do, if you do not address this physical trauma that's stored in your body, you can do all the talking therapy in the world, all of the journaling, all of the intellectualizing, all of the logic, you will still be stuck, even when you know exactly where the roots of all these patterns are in you, and you've gained the logic and felt a shift. You have to heal the trauma. And the best therapy for this is EDMR. EDMR is the best therapy for actually healing on an energetic level specific traumatic events from your past. As you may have heard on my other videos, I'm an advocate of doing multiple therapies at once. However, I appreciate that it's not for everyone, and also some of us may not have the financial means to do all these different therapies at once. In which case, I would advise, if the problem is that you've been doing a lot of inner work alone, like meditating, journaling, identifying patterns, doing your your research on YouTube, etc., but you're not progressing, I believe that it's time to do EMDR. I think before I said EDMR, I always say that. Don't know why. I know it's EMDR. So yeah, I would highly advise you to do that. The final thing, and this is a bit of an unusual one, this is getting validation from others' envy. I'm going to do a whole video on this because I think it's a topic that has been talked about a little bit. I was reading Manifest by Roxy. I can't remember her last name, but she kind of went into envy a little bit, and I thought it was really good. And I think there's not too much other content out there about this, but basically it also goes hand in hand with the social attacks, like the unprovoked attacks that we fear. It's that we ask ourselves questions like, what would I get out of having those attacks? Which I know kind of sounds like a victim blamey question, but in asking ourselves these questions, we can actually get real about who we are, our shadow selves. And often if you're a person that's constantly afraid of being envied, it is because you have unresolved envy issues yourself. And if you keep having envious people in your life and it's like a bit of a pattern for you, it is because you are getting validation from it. And without it, you don't feel worthy. that is a big one to leave at the end of the video for you to contemplate on. If you want to hear more on that specifically, comment in the comments down below and say more info on envy, please. And I will make a video just on that because it's a huge thing that I've contemplated on very deeply, and it is what keeps us stuck. One of the most common reasons why people are afraid to put themselves out there in business and in love and all of these things, possibly not so much love, I would say definitely in business and like making more money, is because they're afraid of being envied. And it's very much projecting their own envy into others. They are not acknowledging that they envy successful people. And sometimes you genuinely cannot see it. Sometimes you cannot see it in yourself. I have been there myself. It took me a long time to realize that, hold on a minute, I actually envy people. And I thought this whole time that it wasn't me. It was when discovering shadow work that I realized that absolutely I started to notice that I do. When I see someone succeed, I did feel a lot of envy. I've done a lot of inner work around it now, but it was contributing to why I was afraid of succeeding, because when we hate and envy others for their success, their money, their beauty, we are also sending ourselves the message that if you're successful, if you're beautiful, if you're wealthy, you are going to be hated just the way like you hate this person, this innocent, lovely person. And on a level, on a conscious level, you might say, oh, I don't hate them. Of course I don't. But on an energetic level, on an unconscious level, you do. And if you don't resolve that, you're going to keep yourself stuck. So let's work on that, and I will see you in the next video.